Here we go. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom! And welcome to the Big Honker podcast brought to you by Pacific Calls. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
They will not be at Turkey, correct?
No.
But I will see Trevor in Mexico, so we can send him our warm wishes.
You can send who our warm wishes?
Trevor.
He's going to be with us in Mexico.
I know. I'll send them for the people.
Oh, okay. Got you now. And a bottle of tequila.
Sure. After the week I'm having, might be necessary. So, we'll see.
You're getting in the tequila business?
Maybe.
Good for you. Good for you.
Very profitable.
You can introduce our guest?
Sure. Forrest Carpenter, man on a mission. You are looking for a hybrid, wearing short sleeve t-shirt, Colorado. You are in Colorado, right?
Yes, sir.
You're not off somewhere searching for.
No. Life is much more tame now with 2 kids and a fresh puppy. So I am happy to be hanging out at home and chasing this hybrid. It's funny. I had my first encounter with him back the first week of December, and we always talk about how much geese are moving and where they're going, and it's kind of interesting using him as a marker. He's been around this area that I'm chasing him in. I mean, within 5 miles for what's that? 2.5 months.
5 miles is all just that little circle he's working.
Yep, pretty much. There's been 5 or 6 fields I've seen him in, and had a couple encounters. I put pellets into him once, and got it on shot cam. I got feathers coming out all over the place, but he was just fine. Oh. And I was bummed after that. I thought I was gonna, lose him to a coyote or an eagle or something like that. But no, he popped back up about 5 days after that. I've been hard after him since.
What does he look like? What do you think he is?
He's a Canada blue hybrid.
No shit.
He's got the blue goose tertials, those beautiful black and white drapes, and the standard real white head, just kind of the same ones that we see with these lessers semi frequently, but just something for me to go chase, just a target, and it's a fun pursuit. You guys know how that goes. You remember the leucistic one hanging there in your lodge there and all that. I mean, that was the same kind of deal, chasing that bird all over Haskell County, Knox County, and just one of those deals, man. I love a chase.
I was glad to send that picture to Justin that day.
That was one of the more heartbreaking texts that I think we got out of all the time. We got a lot of fun razzing back and forth between us, but man, when that one showed up, he Justin, he gave me that.
Damn
what,
it.
man? What's up?
They got it.
They got Lucy. A look. They got Lucy. Yeah, man, I just tried. But I got myself a Lucy about a week ago.
Really?
In a snowstorm. Yep. Came out of the middle of a group of lesser, just dropped right into the center, and I was like, oh, I know what that is. So
have y'all
it's not quite as pretty as the one you have, but she'll look nice on the wall anyway.
Yeah, it still is what it is. Have y'all been just loaded up with lessers this year?
For the most part, I mean, we definitely got our predominant mid-sized Canada that we always get around here, and I tell you what, avian flu couldn't work hard enough on the mid-sized Canadas, in my opinion. I'm just, definitely not actually how I feel, but good night, those things annoy me. They're one of the most frustrating geese to hunt there is. Some days they act like a big goose, other days they act like a lesser, where they want to hear all the calling and see all the flagging. Other days they will just flat out go land on their own, and it's annoying. But we did have the lessers for quite a while. I think it was probably third week of December before we got a little bit of a cold snap that push most of our real little geese down to that Amarillo, Lubbock area. But yeah, they showed up again pretty quickly after that, and we're back into the lessers. We got our typical late season mix of everything between 14-pound dang near giant honkers and little tiny Richardsons.
Now, when do y'all close?
18th.
The 16th this year. It's usually that weekend right around Valentine's Day, middle of February.
So you got about 10 more. You got about a week and a half left to chasing them.
Yeah.
You ought to be able to close the deal on this hybrid, I would say, with 10 days left.
And, well, and the nice thing with it being a hybrid, it's a snow goose hybrid. So I've got some time, but I'm just really trying to make it happen. So I love going up and setting up decoys and taking pictures after the season anyway. But I do always carry a shotgun with me because we get the random Rossi or snow goose mixed in with these, and the hybrids. That's as much snow goose as this Canada.
This is true.
If we're being honest, most of those look more like a blue goose than a Canada anyway.
Right. Yeah, 100%. So overall, how was this season for you?
It was good. I would say I'm really glad that 90% of my hunting was either one or two people.
Yeah.
Just because if I was looking for more than about 10 birds, it would have felt a lot tougher. I can usually go out and run traffic and pull my 5 geese or my 5 mallards, or just have an opportunity to shoot a few birds, feel good about it, and really enjoy it. But if you were going with 6 or 8 guys, especially before Christmas, it was tough. We had our good first push of lessers, but I really don't know why they never were as easy as they usually are. Usually when they get here, we get that like 2 weeks of just happy birthday, man, Merry Christmas. Here's every goose, every flock. They just came and sat just right. It never really lined up like that for us this year. It's been better once we got the cold, and we usually have our good early season and our good late season. But I'd say overall it was a below average year as far as numbers and just the amount of birds worked. Now, I did have a couple of my all-time favorite hunts this year, and that was awesome. But it certainly wasn't because of just a plethora of birds.
Sounds a lot like Knox and Haskell County. Like,
yeah, that's what I heard.
Overall, like opening day, we hunted a field. Birds have been in there. You know how it is. They've been here since mid-October. They've been using the same couple fields for 2 weeks and had a good plan going in. And we shot and I'll tell you what, we stopped. So they bumped our spec limit to 5. We stopped at 3.
Right.
Getting that third bird a lot of mornings was just like, oh my God. Like, I don't know.
I know.
Like, I don't know. We need 5. I got, a group of 6 or whatever. We need 6 more birds to punch out. And it's like, I don't know if we're going to get it today. So that just even adding 1 bird to the limit was tough most mornings. But like opening morning, they just work goofy. Nothing, you know how November is here. You got those specs that just got here, and kind of like you said, everything lines up, everything falls in, you're in and out. And I think I hunted until like 10 or 10:30 opening morning. I was like, oh goodness, they are smart.
Man. Well, I got to say, I really, really got to applaud you guys down there for getting together and doing what you did and imposing, tighter restrictions on yourselves. I love that. It not only does it kind of give you a little bit more room when you get that last big group in, and if you shoot a couple over your, 3 out of that last group, it's not a legal issue. It's just fine. But the big thing being, you didn't pressure those geese the way you could have. I've been talking to people, heck, all over the country. They just raised the limit around Torrington, Wyoming, and most people are upset about it there. I say, hey, they're doing it down in Texas. Why don't you don't have to shoot this many birds for it to be a great time. It's like Oklahoma, if you go down there and if you just sit there and you look at it and say, all right, we can shoot 8 Canadas and 2 more speckle bellies and, 50 snow geese. All of a sudden you're short of a limit and you still shot 75 birds. And you're like, why are people upset about this? That's something that drove me nuts. But the amount of, I'm sure you saw it plenty of times this year, even just adding 1 bird to the limit, the number of flocks that you shoot into and the education that you give those birds, it adds up. So I mean, to stop at 3 instead of trying to push it to 5, man, that was a good move. I'm sure.
Definitely.
I have so many different outfitters in Oklahoma that call and talk to me about stuff, and they all do the same thing. I think we got our limits are too high, but every one of them
will
shoots 8 birds every day, or two in two specs.
They have the opportunity.
None of them ever. You know, I've got 12 guys. We shot 50 as a great hunt. We stopped hunting at 8:30. We shot what we called our limit and be done. Every one of them is, we shot 87. We still needed, we were 9 short, but it was a good hunt. Well, it was a damn good hunt, but and then 3 days later, they're like, our geese are gone from over there. Well, that's because you
shot 87 of them.
Make it easier on yourself.
Yeah, and you shot into 26 different groups. You shot into a wad of 1,000 4 times. You know, like that's the thing. You know, and it's all about that mentality. You know, if you're sitting there looking for the big L, man, it's the L word hurts you more than anything when you've got those high limits. And just from a business standpoint and looking at your clients and, the expectations they have going into those hunts, it's like guys who watch the snow goose, like when F5 came out all those years ago and people started going on spring snow goose hunts expecting to kill 150. I mean, expectations will ruin your day more than anything. You could have an awesome day. Like you say, shoot 87 geese and still be disappointed, which is mind-blowing to me, because if you shoot 87 geese here or in Texas or anywhere else, it's the best hunt of the year. It just, I don't know. I think I wish people were more focused on the experience and less focused on the big L.
Yeah. And social media has changed a lot of that too, especially I noticed a lot this year. Like, I can't tell you how many different outfitters were posting 100 bird stacks on repeat. You know what I mean? So now if you go with these outfitters and you shoot anything less than triple digits, well, man, we only shot 75 today. The other day you shot 115. Like, what happened today?
Yep. Only 75.
Only 75. Damn it. We shot 30 less than you've been shooting.
I've got a good counselor that you can talk through. You can spend a few $1,000s in a couple of years working through these woes.
Yeah. And I did the math. It's to shoot that extra bird per, group of about 7 or 8 guys, it's about 5 flocks that you got to work. I mean, and that's just more because, let's face it. You got 7 guys. You're most of the time, unless they're just really good. Very rarely does each guy shoot 1 bird. You hope it happens, but very rarely does it happen. So with 7 or 8 guys, you're going to shoot 3 or 4 birds out of each flock.
So you're saying a group that can shoot really well stands out more than a group that can't shoot?
Just shoot 1 bird per. I don't care. Like, if everybody will just shoot 1, we'll be out of here in 3 whacks at it.
Do you have more guys that can't shoot groups than you have guys that can shoot?
100%.
Yes, but everybody thinks it's the opposite. But there's very few groups that are. Absolutely. When we have a group that can shoot, it's like
it's noticeable.
We ran into one day that we shot over our 3 deal, and it was a group of guys that could shoot, and they needed like 5 birds. There was maybe 10 of them, and they needed 5 birds, and they shot like 13 out of the last group. But we weren't, the guides called, and they're like, "Oh, we shot over today." I go, "What do you mean you shot over?" So, well, we actually shot almost 4 birds per deal, but the last flock we shot 13 birds or whatever it was. I was like, that's no big deal. That's why we got that big buffer anyways. But it happened one time.
Exactly.
And I had one group of clients that complained about the 3 bird limit.
The Stanfield limit.
They were not happy about that. Didn't know how I could choose to do what the state doesn't, different than the state. I was like, well, you're hunting with us. But you know what? They doubled the size of the group and they booked an extra day for next year, so they weren't too upset. But that's just the way we do it. That's awesome.
And that's the way to do it. I mean, gosh, I came down. I was only down there for like 3 days or so this year, but I took a group for Justin. We had the same deal. We were 9 birds short, and we ended up killing 14 at the last group. And it was like, wow, that's really relieving. And not only that, but do you remember the days of, all right, guys, we can only kill 2 more speckle bellies, or, hey, guys, sorry, that's our spec limit. We got to wrap it up because, the collateral risk is just too high. That stressful feeling of, man, we got to make sure that we're really high and tight on this deal and playing it by the book. And you mentioned guys shooting, birds out of, if you kill 1 bird out of each flock, as you go down with fewer and fewer birds, obviously you can't have 7 guys standing up if you only need 5 birds.
Right.
So those last few birds, and typically it's the guys who can't shoot well that are still a few birds short of their limit, that you're just sitting there and trying to get them to actually hit something. It can be absolutely exhausting trying to make that happen.
Yeah. We went through towards the end of the season. I don't know what it was, but like I would say January was better than any month that we had, especially like we wrapped it up on a pretty good little run right there. But like we were working birds tight, and I don't know, I had like 2 groups in a row that just could not hit the broadside of a barn. And like we're talking birds inside of 25 yards, like feet touching the ground. There were some times that we had birds on the ground, and I'm like, okay, guys, we got birds on the ground. We're going to let this group kind of settle in on top of them. Do not forget about the birds on the ground. What do? They stand up and they look straight up in the air and they shoot at the birds at 60. It's like, what are we doing, guys? And I hate to be a dick, but it's like, shoot the birds on the ground. And I'm hollering like, we got birds on the ground. And then, that just kind of adds to the confusion, because now all of a sudden the guide's screaming at me, but I gotta talk over the gunshots, so I can't whisper it.
Yeah. Well, and the tough thing is, all right, so the first time they make mistakes, and we all know what it's like guiding and working with clients. You get a lot of awesome clients that totally get it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing clients in general. But you get a lot of people who come out because they're less experienced and they need some help. And that's a big reason why people go on guided goose hunts. And that's awesome. So first time, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right, so... Man, we had 10 right there in the hole. Shoot, keep an eye out and listen to where I'm directing you.
Yeah.
The second time, it's getting frustrating. And after that, man, we're talking about our livelihood. And I'm not saying that one day of shooting is going to wreck your whole season, but realistically, probably have. And the difference between 4 flocks a week over the course of a 120-day season is immense. The number of birds that get shot at, and man, it's just there's just not room for that as far as trying to make a living chasing these geese. You keep shooting into more and more and more. Everybody talks about, oh man, I miss the good old days. It was so much easier back then. Well, yeah, you didn't have 14 people strung out. We didn't have A-frames. We didn't have all this other stuff unless you went and built it yourself out of what you got at the hardware store. We're definitely conditioning these birds to learn and to figure out what's safe and what's not safe. And the list of things that's safe is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So the more times we shoot at them, the more they're going to figure out, hey, maybe I shouldn't go sit next to that giant pile of tumbleweeds.
Right.
I'm going to ask you a question. You're very educated, well-known. You know what you're doing, and I respect your opinion a lot. Pat Pitt, my friend that's a taxidermist, he told me, and it made a lot of sense. He told me this in October, I think. He said that he thinks one of the problems why the birds are getting harder to hunt is he says this conservation snow goose season is having a horrible effect on the other geese and the other ducks, because he said there's pressure all the time. He goes, it's like, and someone else, another guy in the outfitting business, I'm going to talk, he's actually a snow goose guy in Arkansas. We were talking about this. He told me, he said, it's just like living in a shitty neighborhood. He goes, even though your place is nice, you hear all the gunshots and shit, you don't sleep at night.
Right.
He says it constantly on edge. You get out of your car, you look around, you go to the store, you look around. He goes, these geese have got that pressure on them all the time, and ducks. And I'm starting to think that maybe there is a lot to this.
I don't think you're wrong, especially down there in Arkansas and places where you see these guys actually calling and working specklebellies to bring the snows. I mean,
right.
That's a game that's been played for quite a while, but not in the snow goose world and not through February and March. Obviously in the Pacific Flyway where you can hunt, you've got a lot of specklebelly seasons that go into March. That's just kind of the deal. But I think there's probably a lot to that. I can't speak knowledgeably. I haven't seen any numbers, but you're not wrong. Especially when there's all these other birds just in the proximity. They don't even have to be going to the same field. Like you say, they hear gunshots, they're on edge. It was wild. So I don't remember if we were recording or not when we talked about this, but when I was sitting in the spread yesterday, I was looking for this goose. He was in the field the day before, sat there, all these geese land. I probably have 1,000, 1,200 birds. Every time a truck rolled by with a Jake brake, there was a backfire on the highway or there were gunshots in the distance, every single head popped straight up and they went dead silent.
Really?
Every time. And I'm lying there in a ghillie shooting tumbleweeds. I wasn't moving. It was absolutely pressure from a distance. And I really think there's a lot of truth to them being on edge longer. Frankly, it's probably not good for their health. You think about what cortisol does in a human body and how it leads to diabetes. And don't get me wrong, they're on a much more natural and, regulated diet than most of us are when they don't have Burger King to go hit lunchtime when they're just feeling snackish. But, man, I just think about what stress does to our bodies. I can't imagine it's much better for them. So, not only from an education standpoint, but also just a day-to-day mentality kind of thing. I can't imagine that it's good.
Yeah. And I realize the numbers, there won't be as many hunters in Canada, but I think they can go clear into, mid-May, even almost to June. Absolutely. In some of them.
Well, and you say that, but I know like 6 groups of guys this year that are going to hunt spring snow geese in Canada. 5 years ago, I knew 2 groups, right. And those guys have been doing it for a while. And it's just one of those things that it's caught on. And I'm pretty sure it's social media that turned these other people onto it. Most people are out chasing turkeys and their mindset shift, but all of a sudden you see videos of big wads of adult snow geese and dams and that kind of thing showing up, and people are like, "Oh, hey, maybe I should go do this."
Yeah, and I don't know when because right now, like, we've got specks and snows mixed. I don't know when they kind of segregate and go off in their own directions, but I would assume that even in Canada, I would assume that there's going to be some percentage of speckle bellies that's mixed in with these snows still. And
I'm sure,
just like you said, it doesn't take them long to figure out, don't go buy that big batch of tumbleweeds.
Yep.
Even if they're not getting shot at.
It's a weird deal. And, you talk to the guys that go up there and do it, and they say, yes, there's a certain point where their brain just turns into mating season and they just go stupid. And that's when guys try to time it. But if you don't time it just right, they're standard snow geese. And it's not a walk in the park, and they're smart. And, we know we've been educating snow geese by hunting them going north and south for years and years. But, it just, as more and more people get into this and as it becomes more and more popular, it's a big deal. Heck, I remember I was 12 years old riding around with some of my buddies, and we'd go out and we'd take the plywood cow and we'd go walk behind it and we could go shoot snow geese that way. It didn't take too long for them to catch on to that. So you think about all the other stupid things that we do and all the gadgets and gizmos we pull out during, the spring or fall season, just all the things we do to chase snow geese, and it adds up. And the snow geese aren't the only ones seeing it. They're not the only ones affected.
Yeah. This year, I felt like I couldn't pinpoint exactly what the birds wanted to hear on a day-to-day basis. Like, there were some days where they wanted the kitchen sink thrown at them, and then there were other days where it's just you better peep at them on the corners, and that's it.
Yeah. I'm 800 miles away, but that sums up my year better than just about anything. Heck, just a couple days ago I was hunting, and they've been acting kind of decoy shy, so I just went out with what I used. I think it was 13 big old the Dave Smith Giants. Set those out there in a field that's been full of lessers, spread them way out, and I just wanted to sit there and shut up, and had a couple big geese act nicely with that. But then, it kind of felt like we had some reverse migration going on, had a bunch of geese crawling over the prairie and working their way north. And we landed a couple really big groups of lessers, just blowing our lungs out and doing everything we could to make as much noise as possible, even over just a few decoys. And if you could get them to do it in under about 30 or 45 seconds, so about the time your lips are getting tired and you're getting about ready to be done blowing a call, if they were coming down and touching down, then it was great. If it was a higher group of birds and they'd circle 2 or 3 times and you're still huffing and puffing trying to give them everything you got, they just kind of mill on.
Yeah.
So just one of those years where you have that. And then just a week ago, yesterday, heck, I had all these between 2 hunts. I probably had 1,800, 2,000 birds walk in the decoys, and those 2 days, I don't think I made a note on a goose call.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I would say the same thing to the guy I'd be working with that day. It's like we got 3 or 4 spins out of them, and if they start out at 150, they're going to spin us 4 times, and that's going to be it, and they're just going to go on. But if we got to cut that distance down because you're only going to get 3 or 4 spins out of these geese, and if they hadn't done it by then, they're not going to. So we got to figure out how to get them to drop a lot of altitude. And there were so many no-win days here this year.
I got another one for you, completely out of left field from everything else we're talking about. But it's something that's really on my mind with all this baiting crud been going on in Oklahoma. I do not understand. I understand why it's illegal to put corn in water. Everybody does that. I don't understand how it's legal to plant corn and flood it. It's the same damn thing.
To put water in corn.
To put water in corn. It's the same exact deal. And someone asked me, they go, well, why do you think the law's written that way? Well, when they wrote the laws in the 1940s and 50s, nobody in their right mind would have flooded a standing cornfield on purpose. Nobody would have. And I just do not understand, and I'm going to piss some people off that hunt on it. I don't think it's changing the migration. We got to have snow in winter, but there's no doubt that it has caused a big disruption in what the ducks do. Would everybody agree on that? It keeps birds in places a lot longer than it would have normally.
Even if it doesn't keep them there longer, I think it changes the directions they go, and I think it limits the places they go.
Yes.
So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, especially if people treat it as sort of a refuge, but it doesn't make things any easier on the guys outside of it. I mean, it's not bad for the ducks, but I think there's other factors that contribute more greatly. Like you say, I think mild winters, and I'm more concerned about, birds after Christmas don't get shot at in Canada. And if they're still in Canada and they stop getting shot at, they're going to sit there through the weather and just ride it out. Because we're going on 2 years in a row. We've watched videos of the last day, guys in Alberta and Saskatchewan working giant wads of mallards. And all my buddies in Minnesota and Wisconsin could be shooting limits of mallards, on through about this time of year, but they're getting shut down early because they're just not getting the winters that they used to, and the ducks aren't there until a little bit later. But as far as the flooded corn goes, I mean, I've been on both sides of that, hunting with the guys at Eagle Lakes Ranch up in Washington. They've got some unbelievable corn impoundments, and the ducks that they draw there, I really do think in their area, it really improves the hunting around because they keep more ducks and a higher percentage of ducks there until things get really, really cold. I've also seen it like in Sumner, Missouri, where if you don't have one of those, all you're doing is running traffic between where they roost and which, flooded cornfield they want to hang out in for the day.
Yeah.
See, I have the older I get, I look at things different. I used to want to shoot everything and have everything, and it worked out. Well, as I've gotten older, I realized in the last 20 years, lack of winters played a major role in what's going on. There's no doubt about that. Because 20 years ago in Iowa and Minnesota, I had guys that would come here and hunt in January because their season was over, but their ducks had been gone for 4 weeks anyways because everything was froze up. And that doesn't happen. But you cannot tell me, it's hard for you to convince me that it is okay to flood corn and it's legal and it's any different than throwing corn in water. It's the same damn thing. It's just a different animal. And it's turning hunting into a rich man only sport on those places like that.
I think, yeah, and it's tough because you got to draw the line somewhere, right? And if giving them water to access the corn on the cob is an issue, is it intentionally flooding a cornfield? What if there's a big runoff, And I'm not saying I disagree. I agree 100%. It's a tough thing to draw a line.
Yeah, naturally, I don't have an issue with it.
I think about it from where geese are.
I don't have a problem if it's natural. If you've got a cornfield you're fixing to harvest and you get 10 inches of rain and it floods it, that's just a natural deal. That's a normal That's just normal life. I don't have a problem with that. And I really don't have a problem with the guys hunting over corn. They've taken it's kind of like Trump and the tax deal. You wrote the taxes, the rules, we're playing by your rules. They found a loophole in it. I just think it's hypocritical to think that it is legal, that's legal, but putting corn in water, which I know is illegal and it's baiting, is any different. It's the same animal. It's the same cat with a different stripe on it.
Now, let's say we're in dry ground and a guy who runs a hunting club is also the farmer, and he goes through and he chops and doesn't end up getting as many cobs as he should have, and he scatters a whole bunch of corn on the ground off the cob on that. That's baiting, right? That's intentionally doing it. But then you've got old Joe who doesn't know the difference, or who just didn't get his settings right and is doing the same thing. I know guys who have gotten dinged and gotten in trouble for having too many pieces of corn inside the DNR hula hoop. And, I think that's the biggest issue with the legality side of things, is you can split hairs, and there's guys who genuinely are trying to play it right, or guys who have a lease in a field next door to something that's baited that, may not even be marked, could have gotten shut down. Usually if they're going to shut down a field, they're going to post it. And if you happen to drive by the field, you could see the sign that says, you're not allowed to hunt birds who are influenced by this. But if you're hunting the field next to it and you've got birds going to a baited field, if you don't know the field's baited, but birds are going there, and the feds or your local DNR know that they're going to a baited field, you're just as guilty as if you're hunting in the field yourself.
Yep.
Even if you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. I think we've got a lot of issues with the legality side of things. Baiting and getting those distinctions sorted out is one. I wouldn't be against, talking about the flooded corn thing and trying to get that knocked down. I think it's not a bad thing for the ducks, though. I think it's good to have it around. But if you're doing it, to keep ducks and have ducks for just you to hunt, that's kind of a rough deal on everybody else. It's not an intentional thing, but you think about how much agriculture has changed geese. I think winter wheat in Kansas and Oklahoma changed the lesser hunts down there in Texas quite a bit, because that wasn't as prominent as it is now. And the number of lessers we have down there compared to what it was in the 2000s is a much different thing. We see it with the greater Canadas in Colorado. Now they're taking what used to be prairie grass out in Montana and planting sugar beets in it. We don't get our big geese anymore because of that. So, agriculture has a big play, and we can manipulate it a lot of different ways, but it just all in how those laws are written. And some of the laws make some sense and some of them don't.
Yeah, the influence
I
part.
think you're 100%.
Yeah, the influence part.
The influence part is what's so vague. It's not. Waterfowl hunting is the only thing I can think of that has so many vague rules. And then the game wardens will be like, well, they're not vague. Yeah, they are. The influence. So if a bird's flying 10 miles to go from a water hole to go to a feedlot or to a baited field or whatever, a baited pond, and they're 10 miles and you're hunting in between that, you may not even know there's bait anywhere, but those birds are still influenced. Or you can be 500 yards away from an influence field. They need to have some deals that say, hey, if you're hunting around a baited field, you can't be within a mile of it or a half mile
or whatever the parameter is.
10 miles. But it needs to have a rule so it's not vague going on someone's discretion. Because I can only think of one thing that the cop has discretion on compared to everything else, and that's public intoxication that a regular officer has. Everything else is done by law. If you get a DWI, if you blow over so-and-so, you're arrested for a DWI. But you can, public intoxication, you can have one sip of beer and a cop smells beer on you and say, oh, you're public. I had one drink. I'm not drunk. I'm just an asshole.
Right.
But, and so I'm that way with this, the influence. But the corn deal just blows my mind, because if I took a milo field, let's say just 5 acres. I took 5 acres out here and I planted milo on it and I went and shredded it and I flooded it to shoot ducks on. It'd be against the law because it's shredded. But I left the milo up on it and flooded the water right to the milo level. Then it's legal. Well, it's the same damn thing.
It is. Yeah, wet milo or wet corn is wet milo or corn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's grain, and that's the thing. You know, it's accessibility. Because if it's standing on a full, tall corn stalk, maybe a big goose or a swan can get up and pull it down. Ain't no mallard pulling a corn cob off a stalk, right? But you put that water up there, and all of a sudden they can get to it. And I get that. There's a lot to be said there. Man.
But nobody wants to bring it up because everybody's afraid they're going to hurt someone's feelings or piss somebody off. Had a kid from South Carolina hunting with me this year. He told me, he said, where I hunt at, he goes, we're poor boy hunting. We hunt public water. We hunt here and there. And he said, we have a hard time killing ducks. But he said, there's 3 or 4 different places around me. The guys shoot them every day. And he said, all they do is they hunt by a refuge on flooded corn. Birds go in there and feed on that flooded corn. He goes, you take that water off that corn and you just fill that corn. He said, the ducks are in there 2 or 3 days and they eat the field and they're gone. But he goes, they flooded corn and they keep it for 60 days. He goes, my group of guys, we can't afford 300 acres and to flood 160 acres of plant corn. And then they cut the corn, I guess, once the flooding's over, but there can't be much corn to be getting off that, I wouldn't think. And then they changed the levels. They put the level up at the first ear of corn, and then when the ducks eat it, then they raise the water level again.
Exactly. No, man, and that's just exhausting, It's tough. You just flat out can't keep up with all that. It'll drive you nuts. But another one that while we're on the topic of vague and frustrating laws, how about group hunting?
Yeah, that's another one. What's
another one?
The difference between having 10 guys that go shoot 50 geese and 10 guys that shoot 5 geese apiece.
Mm-hmm. No.
What's the difference?
Yeah, there's none. But
you want to know the difference?
But
they don't get to ride a ticket.
Yeah, they can hammer your ass for that every day if they want to.
And it's the easiest thing in the world. And you see it. I don't want to bash one of the alphabet agencies because I work closely with them with airplanes. But it's a federal administration of that sort. And there are a lot of very, very vague laws in there to come and incriminate pilots and always ultimately put it on them. If you look at the amount of times that there's an accident or an incident or something in aviation and it's pilot error, it's insanely high. The number of times where anything could be anyone else's fault is minuscule. And actually, heck, look at the deal over here with the helicopter and the regional jet in Washington, D.C. That's pilot error. Sure. No, ATC had nothing to do with that. There was no way that they're going to get blamed for it. It's going to be, the people in the pilots or in the front of the airplanes, because when it comes down to it, it's all see and avoid. And the same thing comes down to waterfowl stuff too. When something's going on and you got a group of guys out there hunting, if they want to come and give you a ticket, they've got 3 or 4 things where they can always come and harass you about it. Mm-hmm. And it's just super frustrating because that's stuff that just opens a door and that's all there is to it. It just makes it too easy. And I think they have those laws in there just because they want it to be a very, very open door for themselves. I think they like that stuff, and it's really, really frustrating because that's not the way it ought to be.
Right.
That's
the party hunting deal. First of all, I understand cops need to have something to have probable cause. License plate light. They take a lot of dope off the street because the people don't have a license plate lights. But that rule is written in there just for that reason. Gives you probable cause. Find something, you can pull them over. They didn't do a blinker. If I'm driving in a small town somewhere and there's a cop behind me, I'm like, fuck, if I use my blinker, he's going to think I'm guilty for some shit. So if you don't use your blinker, you're going to get pulled over for not using it. If you use it, he thinks somebody's using his blinker because he knows he done something wrong.
Yeah.
But the party limit deal, if you got 10 guys party hunting, you have 10 guys and you shoot 50 geese, 50 ducks, whatever it is. And that's the limit's 50. That you shot the limit of birds.
What's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. The result's the same. If you're in it, if you're in it for the ducks, It's a good thing. It's kind of like the flooded corn. If you're really trying to feed ducks and stuff, why do you turn the water off as soon as hunting season's over? Keep that corn flooded till March when they leave to go up north. Nobody's gonna do that because it ain't about the ducks. It's about shooting the ducks. Now, I do say if you're feeding some of them places up around Sumner, they're feeding 500,000 ducks a day. So those ducks are getting a lot of feed and they shoot 10,000 ducks. Well, they fed a lot of ducks for only kill 10,000. That's really a good thing if you looked at it that way. But the party deal's the same. If you got 4 guys and you can shoot 24 ducks and you shoot your 24 ducks and you're done, you had a good limit. It's a great hunt, Now, out of the chances of all 4 of them guys are all shooting at the same time, each one of them shooting 6 exactly, probably not.
Right.
But the results are the same. And I think we...
But I think it's just like you said. I think it's just their foot in the door to what can we get these guys for. I tell you what, I was nervous this year. There was a brand new game warden doing the ride along thing, and he caught us just as we had come out of the blind. And we had like 3 or 4 A-frames, and so it's kind of for the guys that are in the middle of the A-frames, it's kind of hard to walk out with all your shit plus your birds. So I said, all right, guys, just throw your birds over the front of the blind here and we'll get all your stuff out and all that other stuff. Well, when he came out, our birds were they weren't with each individual guy. And I was like, here it comes. And he kind of looked at them and I'm like, all right, this is it. I'm going to have to do some fucking explaining right here. But it's just like, I shouldn't have to worry about that. Like we're well under the limit. You know what I mean? Each guy, I think we got a limit that day. Each guy's got their 3 birds and
we have our limit, not a state limit even.
Right. But if he wanted to be a dick, he could be like, well, whose birds are these? Like, how did his bird get over in this guy's pile? And it's just an opening that you got to be really, really careful about.
Which is, frankly, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be real. I hate it. It's wrong. It's taking advantage of people because there's a lot of people who take this seriously and are professionals and again hang their livelihood on it like you guys, and to try and get nitpicky over bullshit that we all know doesn't matter, that's ridiculous. I feel the same way about toe tags.
Yeah.
And all the gray area there, is the bird in your possession? Whose possession is it in? Does it have to be on there before you leave the field, or is it more so just a, just for when you're transporting someone else's birds or taking, why does it matter?
Right. Yeah.
Why does it matter? What's the difference? I have 5 geese.
Yeah.
If I have more than 5 geese, I need to be able to give you a license number of someone who's got it. All right. That's my issue.
Right.
But when I'm driving my truck or when I'm walking out of the field, if you're going to try and tell me that a guy who's a federal game warden that owns that company or a retired federal game warden that owns a toe tag company and now they're going to start enforcing that stuff, you're going to tell me that's straight?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you to get lost.
Yeah. Yeah. That a lot of those things don't make any sense to me. And we're very by the book here with paperwork and everything. And it's just like, it's just, they've got their birds. They're in their truck. Like, what do you want from me here? There's 2 guys, there's 6 birds. 3 birds on one side of the tailgate. 3 birds are on the other side of the tailgate. It's like, those are theirs. That's his. Why are we making this hard?
We had a guy on the podcast a couple of years ago, and I can't remember who it was. And he was on a group hunt somewhere, and it was first time duck hunting some guys in the group. And they got checked by a game warden. And I think they were hunting in Arkansas. And there was 10 guys, and they'd killed 14 birds. And the game warden come up and wanted to know who shot what ducks. Well, there was like 3 ducks, they had lined up 10 and somebody had 2. And they asked this kid, you shoot a duck? Oh, I hadn't shot a duck yet. Well, there's one in front of you. And they gave them fucking tickets for that.
For party hunting.
And I thought, you got, so what we're doing now is we're taking people that are hunting, getting into the sport, and you gave him a bad taste in his mouth. The kid probably never go duck hunting again.
Right.
And to me, that's not a good thing when you got 10 guys that killed 14 ducks. There's not close to a limit. Common sense.
Tell me one good thing that could come from it.
Right. There's not.
One.
If he'd have shot something that was out of season, you could have had an educational moment there. Oh, it's teal season and you shot a wood duck. That's illegal, and you're getting a ticket. That's understandable. Got no problem with that. But you got 10 guys, they killed 14 freaking ducks, and you're going to give everybody a ticket for party hunting. And it's just pick your battles and don't, because if it wasn't for hunters, we wouldn't have all the lakes and stuff we have. The bunny huggers can stay what they want, but I've never seen a bunch of granola crunchers doing a fundraiser to fucking save elk or Rocky Mountain sheep or anything else. It's hunters that do all of that stuff.
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times.
I was just going to, when was the last time you saw a group of tree huggers put together a conservation at a Holiday Inn Express?
Yeah.
Or conference room and bring out $500,000 or $1 million for waterfowl or for anything.
Yeah,
I can tell you they don't have chapters in every other city across the entire country and multiple different conservation agencies that are hunter based. And while Ducks Unlimited has its issues and all the conservation deals, there's always something that you could pick apart and complain about. When it comes down to it, there's a ton of money getting pumped back into the outdoors and conservation. And I don't see anyone else doing it.
No, it's all hunters.
So
every bit of it, it's every bit of what we have going is all because hunters enjoy it, and they're going to put their resources and put their time and their money so that they can have better opportunity.
Yep. It's a bad analogy, but look at Bass Pro Shops or Cabela's, which is the same thing now. If it wasn't for hunting and fishing, they wouldn't be in business, because hunters and fishermen are spending that money. And an organization like that, and I'm not a big Bass Pro guy, they give a ton of money back to nature. Tons and tons and tons of money. Now, I've never been to, what's a store up in Colorado that does all the mountain biking bullshit and mountain climbing? Rec?
REI?
REI.
I don't know. Yep. I've never been in a store like that at all. But do they give a bunch of money back too? I don't know nothing about them. But I know Bass Pro does. I know Cabela's does. I know Boss does. Yeah. I know a lot of these. I know every and also in the hunting business and fishing business is the only business in the world where everybody thinks it's socially accepted to ask you for free shit. I've never seen a plumber. I've never been had a raffle, had a free toilet installation by a plumber in my life. But they fucking give guns and fishing strips away all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, how about a 4-man dove hunt? Can we it's for the one-legged pygmies. Can we get that?
Yeah, I get asked that shit all the time, but you don't ever fucking ask an electrician if he'll come hang some. We'll put new ballast in your house for just $10. Sign up for this raffle. It don't happen.
That's right. Yep. Oh, man. No, people just, I don't know. We care about our sport.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, and no one else puts their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
No, that's all there is to it.
And there are so many good law enforcement agencies out there that are working to protect the wildlife, and I appreciate that so much. I mean, we need more of that. Just like all the shit that happened in Oklahoma. Them guys deserve to be in trouble for that crap. If you're baiting birds, you deserve exactly what you get. And anywhere else that you do shit like that, I've got no problem with that at all. And I support the law enforcement. I don't want anybody to think I'm not being respectful towards them, because I am. But some of the laws are very vague on our end as an outfitter, and we can get in trouble for stuff when we're not trying to do things wrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and to piggyback off your example earlier, like I can't tell you how many times we've been sitting in a blind, we shoot a nice speck or something kind of odd, and it's just one bird, and then somebody on the end's like, hey, pass that bird down so I can take a look at it. Well, if the game warden comes out, you've broken the law. That's not his bird that's in his possession.
That's right. Yeah, and it's just wrong. I mean, that's what it is. It's taking advantage of rules, just like flooded corn being legal.
Right.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Flooded corn is legal. It's illegal to group hunt. I don't know. I feel like it's not really all that fair to let someone be the one that picks on them more.
Yeah. So you brought it up. What's your opinion of the helicopter with running into the American Airlines?
You want to know what I think happened or what the conspiracy theorist in me thinks happened?
Both. Give me both.
I cannot see you as a conspiracy theorist. This kind of blew my mind already when you said that. So I can't wait to hear this, because you're going to be real deep in conspiracy probably.
If I disappear, you know what happened.
Yeah.
No, man, I genuinely think it was a mistake. I really do. I think that folks in the helicopter screwed up. I have seen a lot of really interesting connections between
here we go.
What they say the helicopter pilot is and some of the ends she knew, and You never know. I know they've been remote operating aircraft since the 1940s, basically making drones for people to go up and practice shooting down too. It'd be awfully convenient if someone just, got to disappear for free, get out of jail free card, and they got to go live their life on some beach in Mexico after the government uses a helicopter to take out an airplane that has someone who's got something.
Yeah, some high profile guy on American Airlines is what might happen.
Well, they've listed the list of their names, and there wasn't no high profile people on there unless you're a figure skater.
You never know. I saw a TikTok.
Or 100.
I saw a TikTok.
And they're coming after us hunters.
I saw a TikTok that was like, in 2025, you got to get on the plane and be like, all right, I'm not worried about terrorists. I need to know if any of you have any government contracts. Are y'all connected to anybody? Has anybody got a lot of Bitcoin? Have you got a cure for cancer? Like, who am I flying with here today? Because
that's right. What alphabet agency doesn't like you?
Yeah, right. You're gonna get us off all our prescription drugs because you got to get off this plane if that's the case.
Yeah. The sad thing is, we talked about this the other day. It doesn't matter what happens in our country. Nothing is simple anymore. We can't even have an air disaster without all the conspiracy. And I'm a conspiracy guy too. The LGBT, all that other shit, so I'm right there with you on that. But nothing ever happens. It just happens. It's always there's something behind it.
Right. Oh, this is just a fuck up is all it was.
Like if it's a plane crashed in 1976, it would have been a plane crash and a tragedy. It does it now. We're like you said, who's on the plane? What's going on?
Who slept with Hillary?
Yeah. Well, speaking of Hillary, something just pretty interesting thing today just happened. Duffy, the new transportation secretary guy, made a comment about Elon and them are cleaning up a lot of stuff, and there's been a lot of missed funds used in the FAA and other organizations. And she come back and said, her quote exactly, I'll tell you exactly what she said because this is pretty funny. She chimed in, "They have no relevant experience. Most of them aren't old enough to rent a car, and you're going to let them mess with an airline safety that's already deteriorated on your watch, 2 weeks in." And Sean Duffy, that kid, come back. He said, "Madam Secretary, with all due respect, experienced Washington bureaucrats are the reason our nation's infrastructure is crumbling. You need to set this one out." And he's exactly right.
Yeah. It's a shame to hear that he's going to be committing suicide here. So.
Yes. Yeah, no shit. That was his end deal.
We had a retired air traffic controller on earlier in the week, and we listened to the audio and everything, and I guess where it got vague, this is back to, interpretation, is when the helicopter pilot said, we request visual, all this other stuff, and we'll maneuver from there. And the tower said, okay, you need to go behind. Well, that kind of left it open to interpretation of, well, what's behind? And the way the air traffic controller explained it is to get to the runway for the American Airlines, there's going to be a big bank, and then they're going to spin back in. She should have gone left. Instead, she went right and basically turned right into their bank. But it was open to interpretation. I'm going to go behind. She picked the wrong behind.
Yep. Well, and, again, just to clarify, I think it was just a mistake. And, it's really unfortunate to have such a big loss of life anywhere. But, there's reasons like that in aviation that we have such specific terminology. I'm kind of embarrassed at how many times I'm that old guy who's correcting someone on the radio for their improper use of terminology. But when it comes down to it, behind could mean a bunch of different things,
right?
And unless it's perfectly clear, you're kind of putting people at risk.
Yeah. Have you had any near misses?
Yeah. Couple. And it's usually in areas where, a couple of them have been controlled airspace or around tower where tower's working with us and someone just doesn't see me, or they think they're talking to someone else when things are real busy. That's super hectic. Or in Alaska, when the weather gets crummy, people are still flying around. Those clouds come down, and now, you still have the same number of airplanes, but they're staying below the clouds. So now we're all, really getting compacted, especially when you're going through a valley and trying to work from A to B. it gets really tough. But yeah, I'd say I've probably had 5 or 6 encounters where I've had another airplane within, 100 yards of me, and I don't like those. I'm not a big fan. Those are a not so nice lecture from Forrest out on the radio where people can hear it.
Oh, really?
As far as a high frequency radio.
You're going to get a scolding for everybody to hear?
Pretty much. And I don't know. I think I'm usually a pretty nice guy, and I try to be super gracious and forgiving and understanding, but there's certain times where, like a kid or a dog trying to run out into a street, you're going to get a hard lesson because the consequences of doing it again and having something bad happen are about as severe as it gets. So I don't have time to be nice when it comes to, my own life and my family's lives.
I would like to hear some of these because, like you said, you're such a nice guy all the time. You know what I mean? Like, you're just you're always so pleasant to be around and pleasant to talk to. And the nasty side of Forrest would be kind of interesting to hear these recordings.
I would say it's, I don't know, you look at my spectrum, and up until about 80%, I'm really nice. I can be nice through being pretty frustrated. But when it switches over, it's not real pretty. Not many people have gotten to see that. I'm thankful for that, but when I lose it, it's not
How
fun.
long are you pissed off for? Are you pissed off for a while? Like once you finally get there, is it just like you're going to carry it for a while?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, I can think back to a few instances where I've ended up, you could ask Kyle or Kate about hate sleeping. And I'll sit there and I'll grind my teeth and I'll just sit there and just broil in my own anger. And it's not fun. I don't like it. I don't like being that mad, and I don't like how it comes out. But not everything in life is happy and all peaches and cream.
Everybody's got their limit.
And when I get there, it's usually built up for a while, and there may be some extra unbottling that's going on.
What are you going back to Alaska this year? Yeah.
I am.
How long are you there for?
About 5 months. I leave third week of May and come back like the 7th to 10th-ish of October most years.
What's the worst part? Is it the October months that are so dangerous flying with the weather and everything, or can it be unpredictable that first part of May?
It can be unpredictable all summer. Usually May and June are our nicest months. We'll get a little bit of fog in June typically in the mornings, but fog's great because I can point to fishermen and say, hey, can you see? Yeah, me neither. We're not going anywhere. When we're dealing with the big winds that, we get occasionally throughout the summer, but more so, later in the year. September, October is when those low pressure systems start walking right across from Russia to the Aleutians and over Kodiak, and it'll blow, up to 100. But, the worst days are the ones that are right around that 30 to 40 mark, because it's really borderline. It's like, hey, I know I can fly safely in this, but should we, I can take you out and drop you off. And then what happens when I drop you off and all of a sudden the wind gets worse? That's where it's really tough for me being a chief pilot, trying to make those decisions for the whole lodge. What's good? What should we be doing? Because these people are coming and spending, just shy of $15,000 per person per week to come fishing. And, not that there's not good fishing there right at the lodge, but a big part of that cost is flyouts. That's probably the biggest part, is just getting to and from all these different places. And, it's tough. The fog's rough, the wind's rough. I'll battle one or the other and not complain about it. When you start getting both, like you start getting on the upwind side of the mountains, especially on the coast, and you've got big winds coming in off the ocean, making it real rough, and you're fighting that, trying to go through the hills, but also having it push in low layer clouds and fog, rain, all that stuff. Super unpredictable, and that's where it gets really tough.
Would you say that you're more conservative in your approach? Like when it's on those 50-50 days, are you like, all right, let's roll the dice, I think I can get you out there? Or are you like, it's 50-50, let's sit it out?
I'm getting more and more to where I'm sitting out the borderline stuff, and I think that's the way I want to go. I think the old ways of the Alaskan bush pilot and flying through everything, even with the technology we have, in fact, actually, because of the technology we have, I think we should be using that technology to say, no, I'm not going to go fly today, and I'm not going to risk killing, the 6 people behind me along with myself. It's not real good for business when you do that. Right. So, I think that those days kind of get me the most. What I'll say, though, is the majority of accidents that happen up there happen on beautiful days, on the days where you're finally getting a day off of battling the weather, where things are finally laying down. It's, beautiful, blue skies, not a breath of wind, and you get too comfortable and you just slip up. And, we had a guy do that this year. Everyone was fine. The airplane, very, very expensive repair, and, getting the airplane, we're so remote. There's no repair shops out there. There's nothing. We have our own mechanics and we can do certain things. But, after something like that, basically the airplane got a 2.5 hour helicopter ride back to Anchorage. And I don't know if you know how much a Huey costs for 2.5 hours. And then the 2.5 hours to come get it too. But it's a lot. Yeah. It's a whole lot. So, that kind of stuff hurts. But, it's part of the game, and that's just kind of the way things are. If you're not respectful of the environment and the job, it'll bite you.
Yeah.
Same thing as guiding, right? If you don't take it seriously, if you don't really stay on dudes' butts about being safe and keeping gun barrels pointed in the right direction, and keeping your hands away from the trigger guard at all times, and keep the gun pointed up when you're reloading, all that stuff. Man, how many times have we seen accidents just because, hey, it was a good day, we were just having a great time, and all of a sudden, bang, something happened,
Yeah, complacency will kill you.
Yep, faster than anything.
Are most of the guys pretty understanding whenever you're up there and it's like, hey, I know you paid a lot of money to be here, it's just whether it's going to keep us here today?
It's a mix.
Yeah.
And in large part because of the fact that I can't grow facial hair to save my life. When I'm up there and they see a guy in his mid-30s who doesn't seem like he could have been doing it for long, just the initial reaction is like, well, do you really know? Yeah. And I think we've all been there with certain people in certain professions, and we haven't always given people the respect they deserve in every situation. That happens, but I very vividly have to kind of tell people, like, sorry, I'm the one flying the airplane. I'm the one making this decision. This is, in the interest of my wife and children, we're not going flying today.
Right.
In the interest of your wives and your children, we're not going flying today. Oh, it's that bad? Well, if something happens, it is, if I don't want to fly, you really don't want to fly.
Yeah. I don't want to be up there with a pilot that's already like, oh shit, this could really go bad.
That's the thing. And it's one thing to be on the ground wishing you were in the air, like, man, I wish we were going, and it's super frustrating, and that sucks. The feeling of being in the air and wishing you were on the ground, totally different. And it's a feeling that I highly suggest you avoid at all costs. From experience, when shit hits the fan and it goes from, man, this is pretty crappy, to, oh shit, it's not fun.
And probably when it goes to that oh shit moment, you're probably already waist deep in it and way too far committed to turn around.
And that's the thing. You talk about turning around, man, that's something that I preach to our young pilots. Turn around while you can. Yeah. Because I have gotten in situations where now I can't turn around. Now I have to I have to push through this to see how it goes. And those are not phrases you like to hear when you're talking about little airplanes in areas that don't have instrument approaches. That's the thing. Like, do I know how to fly instruments? Absolutely. Can I handle all this stuff? Of course. But it's a heck of a lot easier when I can dial in a radio frequency, hit a couple buttons on my GPS, and it's going to give me a glide path to come into some airport. So worst case, I could take a float plane and land on some asphalt, but be safe. Out there in the middle of nowhere, there's none of that. And if, because of that, we're trying to stay low and stay under the clouds so we can see when the weather gets bad. And if you get into certain situations, and it's mainly trying to get over a ridge in a valley, you're always taking the lowest spot. So it's in a valley. You've got mountains on either side of you. And sometimes you're trying to pass through a hole that ends up shrinking and closing on you. And now you've got mountains on both sides. You're trudging headlong at 100 miles an hour going, well, shit. Now what?
If there was ever any, I definitely don't want to go to Alaska fishing or hunting now.
You don't?
Fuck no.
It's a beautiful place.
If I can walk there.
You have to. It's unadulterated creation. That's one of my favorite things about it. I just love being up there, and I love being able to share that with people. And it's something that, and my faith's really important to me. And, I haven't been very, a few years, but it starts a lot of conversations, and people start asking questions when they're in a place that's that wild, and it's easy to see God's handiwork. That's what it is. It's just right there, and it's super apparent right in front of you. And this is the way that He created things, and it's really humbling to sit there and look at that. Between the wildlife and the scenery, the way that every animal is designed with a purpose. Watching what, like, just the sockeye salmon, for instance, does for the ecosystem. They'll go out and they'll come back to their river based entirely on scent. And I think it's like 97% of salmon will spawn within like 20 yards of where they were hatched as fry, as little salmon eggs, because of the scent. You get big rains that pull those fish up, and you'll have water running off hillsides, and that's where those mineral deposits come from that they're smelling and sensing and following. You'll see them go up through a little trip coming down a hillside, and you can't even say swim because they're not in the water, but they will snake their way up those hillsides, and they will be 40, 50 yards from the river, and they'll die. And they fertilize the ground, and there's a huge part of that ecosystem that they fuel. And then you've got, the other 3% of salmon, or maybe it's 7%, or it's some real small number of salmon is genetically pre-programmed to not return to where it was, to go seek out new waters. They've got that adventurous gene, and that, increase the longevity of the species. And it's like, you're telling me that this was just pure accident? No way. Right. This 100% is God's handiwork, just laid out plainly for you. And there's so many examples of that there that it opens a lot of people's eyes. And like I say, it's the doorway to a lot of great conversations that, I've seen firsthand lead a lot of people to Christ. And that's a really cool thing. I think that's the best part about my job, honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that, but it makes total sense. You're up there in just untouched wilderness, and you get to see the way that things were.
The last frontier.
At the creation of everything. I did not know that a certain percentage of salmon have this like explorer gene, like you said, but it makes sense that they would want to go and deepen the gene pool of all the salmon that are out there, right? Like you take certain salmon that are from one pool, and then 10% of them go and seek out other salmon, and that's very interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, and you get a real low water summer, and some rivers, some watersheds can't sustain it. Mm-hmm. And that there have been salmon that went up and that spawned in those areas that came back and just flat out didn't have a place to go. And they're trying to spawn in lakes and do other things that usually result in unsuccessful spawning years. And, we see big salmon counts, and it varies from year to year. But, it's just one of those deals that it's really cool to to see that stuff that's naturally embedded in them.
Yeah. So you said you got a new puppy. How old?
He is 10 weeks now.
Going full force with the training and everything?
You know, I'm actually going to be taking it easy. It's kind of a fun story on this one. I have a really good friend that passed away this fall, and he was really, really into breeding English Labs. And you guys remember Lila. She was a little English dog, and you know, he always loved hunting over Lila and his dogs as well. And we've always had a great relationship and hunted together. But since he really went full bore into the training and the breeding and all this stuff, I mean, he's done a lot to bring a lot of English Labs over to the U.S. and kind of increase their presence over here in the field trial game. That was what he really enjoyed. And he spent years trying to basically gift me a dog because he knew I would hunt it. And I'd take it, guide over it. But, you know, it really started like when Lila was 7 or so, and she's getting old. And, all right, you know, I don't want to, it's too late to emotionally bring in, you know, another dog. I don't want to undermine our relationship in her eyes. And then when she passed away, we got to the point where with the family, we had another old dog, and I didn't want to do the same thing to that dog. My wife and I decided that, you know, now's not the time. So it kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And then he got a pancreatic sarcoma diagnosis. And, you know, he did real well for a while and got on a really great experimental treatment that he was doing awesome with and just crushing it. And then insurance company got into a debate with the drug company, and they ended up getting that removed from what he had going. And as soon as they took him off that program, it went south pretty quickly, and he passed away. And actually, at his service, the guy that you know was a lot of hands-on stuff and did a lot of the training for him. He and I got to talking, and he made the offer, and he said, you know, you can have a pup. I know Mike wanted you to have a dog. Anytime you want one, you just tell me. But just so you know, this litter that's coming up, you know, the sire is the last dog that Mike really, really, really wanted to get brought over to the U.S. and the last thing that he really made happen. So if you want that, litter's hitting the ground in X number of weeks. And my wife and I talked, and it was one of those deals that I just couldn't pass up. So got a pup out of one of Mike's last litters that he was part of, which means a lot. I'm going to be, you know, sharing him with the guy that runs him. His name's Corey. He runs kennels out of Kansas, and I'll basically have the dog through hunting season. Had the puppy up until I go to Alaska, and then he'll go over and start training and start his field trial works, first year stuff, and then I'll have him during hunting season. And then for the first 4 years, he's going to spend the summers working through his trials, and then after that, he'll be, you know, full-time family dog with, you know, doing what we need to do to collect breeding samples and that sort of thing.
Oh, that would be very cool. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a distinction between British and English dogs, right?
Yep.
So basically there's like three. There's like British, English, and American, correct?
British and English are kind of the same deal from what I understand. Yeah, you got British and English and then the American dogs. But yeah, the American dogs are typically your bigger, harder charging, you know, more 100-mile-an-hour, 24/7, just like ready to go kind of dogs. And the British ones tend to be, you know, a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter leg, which I enjoy a little bit smaller dogs since I don't, you know, I'm not hunting the Chesapeake Bay. I don't need, you know, some giant dog to go out and break ice for me. And then they tend to be just a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more receptive. And don't get me wrong, a male black lab is always going to be a male lab. And you can only temper that so much. But, you know, it's one of those deals that I think, you know, the temperament just suits me. I'm more of a low key guy. They tend to be more low key. And, you know, initially we were looking for another female because I just had such a great experience with Lila, and I wanted a yellow to kind of separate the separate the two and not hold it to the same standards as I did Lila. But ended up there weren't any yellow females that came out of that litter. So got a black male, and I think I can already tell a huge difference between male and female dog, and it's already kind of turned that page for me. You guys know how it is when you lose a dog. It's really tough to emotionally get to a point where you're ready to do it again. And I wasn't sure if I was there yet, but we weren't going to pass up the opportunity. And I'm really happy that we got him. His name's Ace. He's just a super, super cool little dog, and already super jacked about stuff. He came out and helped me pick up decoys yesterday, or hung on my ankles while I was picking up decoys. But it's been a pretty cool deal. So I'm excited to get him through. I think he'll be ready to hunt this fall, from what I understand. We'll just kind of feel it out, but he's going to get a lot of live bird experience and a lot of real hunting experience. And that's something I think, a lot of the field trial dogs get a bad rap because of that stuff.
Yeah.
So he needs to get out, get to actually hunt and see what it's all about. I'm going to make sure that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to be going down the puppy road soon. We got a couple trips planned soon, and
I thought you already had one.
I didn't. No.
Oh, the boys told me the other day you were getting it at the end of the month.
We'll get one.
Well, I mean, I thought you already had one bought or purchased.
Hell, there's dogs all over the place.
There are
dogs all over the place. A guy reached out to me. Well, Cameron Miller, he's got a litter that'll be ready beginning of March. I've talked to him a little bit. I don't know. I haven't got everything dialed in yet, but I'm weighing a couple different options. And
you know what the option I think you're weighing is?
What?
Is not having a dog to deal with for 3 or 4 or 5 months in the off season is not a bad thing. That's what you're dealing with right there.
Well, I had a rent a dog basically. So one of our
dog, you didn't pay a dime for it.
Well, loan a dog.
Okay.
Really good friend of ours, Steve Barber, lifetime client, been out here since the 90s. He had a dog that was one of Ron's, and he's older, and this was probably good chance this will be his last year. So I ran him all year, and he did what I needed him to do. And at the end of the season, he got a one-way ticket back to Houston, and now I don't have to worry about the kids leaving chicken nuggets out, and there's just this whole thing of, oh shit, we got to hurry up and get home because the dog's got to get aired, and a little bit of freedom.
Yep. You didn't have to worry about getting a kennel for your dog like I am for the next couple of days.
Right.
And that makes a big difference, because pets are like, if you take care of your animals, pets are just like having kids. Yeah. Me and Michelle have to work our schedule around when someone's going to be home because we have a young dog and an old dog. The old dog, we could leave in the house for 8 or 10 hours and never make a mess. Well,
right.
The young one, it ain't that way. So we've got to make plans and schedules for that. So it is a different deal. And I think that's your thing. You're enjoying not having to do all that other stuff, because you're fixing to go right into the frying pan because your boys are ready for a puppy.
They are ready for a puppy, and it'll be good when it finally happens. But I've been having a lot I've been having a lot of flashbacks to when Lou was a puppy and those 2 a.m. wake up sessions where it's like, all right, you're whining that you got to get out. Hurry up and take a shit. It's cold and I'm tired and I want to put you back into your kennel so that we can all get some sleep around here.
Yeah, it's
having a newborn.
The first 2 months are work.
It's having a newborn without having to feed the damn thing.
Up until the puppy's 5 to 6 months, they're a lot of work still.
Yeah.
After 6 months on, they get it down to a pretty good schedule.
And Forrest, as a dad, you'll understand this. It's like, oh shit, he's quiet all of a sudden. What's he into?
Dude, that's the battle I've been living for the past 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. Why is he quiet? What's he got?
That's right. He's there's a pile of shit over here. Great. Oh, cool. He just ate the zipper off of my my shin coat. I'm like, oh, sweet. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And it really is. Between that and having I've got a 7-month-old and my 4-year-old's super helpful.
Yeah.
But even between the two of us, a puppy and a 7-month-old is a whole lot to keep an eye on.
No, yeah.
While my wife's working. So
100%.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll start wrapping up here. So have you made eyes? Have you got eyes on this Lewistic, or are you striking out your scouting session?
Man, I didn't see him. Gosh, we talked about getting angry. I pulled up on the field, and there's a club of guys, and we've got about a dozen members in it. I'm not sure if this is the guy that drove through it or not is in the club, but there's a guy that had some Texas plates on his pickup actually, and all these geese. It's a triticale field, and there's a pivot that runs parallel the south border road, and they were right up against it. And right where I was set up yesterday, which is good. I'm glad they were right back in there. And as I'm sitting there talking to you guys, guy pulls up, and he looked like an older guy. Couldn't tell if he was a goose hunter or a farmer, but he just drove right down that road 50 yards from the geese, and they all blew up.
Perfect.
I could see there was one goose that was in there yesterday, but never got a good chance. I tried to look at the gravel pit they hopped over and sat on, but it's just so tough when they're 30 or 40 feet lower than eye level to get high enough and get a good vantage point. But I didn't get solid eyes on them anyway. A lot of geese. Got a couple good hunts I'll have lined up. Actually, our buddy Kyle is coming into town today. He's making a long trip from Michigan, and we're gonna have a few hunts lined up. But whether or not that Canada Blue hybrid is gonna be part of the plan, still yet to be seen. We'll see if we can't find them this evening. But yeah, if I can't, probably still try and hunt it anyway, because there's a lot of geese in there, and it's a really tough hide. But when you actually hunt, it's going to be Kyle and I. We can sit up next to center pivot tires, and I think we'll be able to make it happen, because they're in there. They want to be there. I think we'll get them good.
Now, let's say this hybrid comes in. You get first crack at it, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, have you already discussed that with Kyle? Like, listen, I've been chasing this thing for 2 months.
If you see it and there's an opportunity, kill it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to have it. I've killed, a handful. We see that stuff when you were around this group of birds. Same stuff that goes down to Texas. You've seen them. I've probably killed 5 or 6 of them. So I'm not going to be heartbroken if he sits up and shoots it by any means. I'm more at the point where this goose and I, we've been dancing our dance, and as long as I get my turn to take a picture with it at the prom, then that's all right. If it goes on Kyle's wall, I would be just as pumped. But I told him, dude, bring your turkey loads. Your first round is going to be, 3-inch number 9s, and they're going to mean business. All right, because this dude he's got to get got.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a very healthy attitude. I don't know if I'd be that way with my friends. I'd be like, listen, you're a guest here. I have burned so many miles of gas chasing this thing. It's 8 mile lunch for 2 months.
I'd shoot it as soon as it got close.
Mine.
I'd quick shoot your ass.
That's the plan. I'm not gonna invite him to go first. Don't get me wrong. I'm a nice guy, but I'm not that nice.
Yeah.
No.
Nice.
If that thing shows up, and to be honest, not to knock Kyle, but I mean, we've got a bit of a history with me seeing some things, and him getting to hold it and take a picture with it too. But I see it and end up getting to knock it down. So I think that's more than likely the way it's going to go.
Good. Well, listen, tell Kyle hi. Tell Kyle hello for us whenever he gets out there. He's a really good dude. I saw on one of his stories that he was headed out your way. So that's super cool that you guys are going to end the season together.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep. Yeah, well, never gets old. You know how it is.
Yeah.
But
well, listen.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you hopping on with us. We've gone almost an hour and a half here, and thank you for taking us on your little scouting trip. I hope that you get to. I hope this thing meets its end here in just a couple days. So, if we don't talk to you before you go up to Alaska, I hope everything's super safe up there, and you have a great season in Alaska. And good luck with the new puppy. And it's been a lot of fun watching you on Instagram this season. You've had a lot of, like you said, you've had a lot of memorable hunts that'll be with you forever. And it's been a lot of fun checking in on you through Instagram and, shooting the brant and the band and with your kid and all that other stuff. So it's been super cool watching you, and I appreciate you sharing that stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. No, it means a lot. And I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I got that YouTube channel going. I'm trying to do more and more with that too. So it's just more of the same, just me going out hunting and trying to be real instead of being, just another deal out there where, everybody wants to feel like shooting 50 or 100 birds is what it takes to be a good day.
Yeah.
So, trying to get that going, and that's been a lot of fun. But I tell you, it's always a pleasure chatting with you guys. Thank you. It's an honor to be able to just sit here and chat for an hour and a half with the world famous Andy Shaver.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I love you guys. It's awesome to talk to you. You guys stay safe and enjoy your off season.
Yeah, we definitely will. And I think it's super important, the narrative that you're trying to get out there of, it doesn't take a big stack of 50 birds for it to be a successful morning. You know what I mean? Just going out there, seeing the sunrise, putting a couple birds in the ground, quality birds and quality time. I think it's super important what you're doing to the narrative, and I hope for our sake as a waterfowl community, I hope that more people will take your approach.
Well, I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. I know you guys are doing your part, and I'll keep trying to do my part. You know, maybe in 30 years we'll see our kids hopefully doing it in the way that we think is the right way, and that would be a big win.
Yes, sir, it would.
Forrest, you have a good day, bud. God bless you. Take care of yourself and be safe up there.
Yes, sir. Bless y'all. We'll catch up with you again here soon.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
buddy?
Thank you.
See you, bub. The great Forrest Carpenter.
Great dude.
He is such a good dude. Great mindset, hard worker, phenom on a goose call, obviously. Took gold at Easton years ago. So, great guy. Great guy. Always love chatting with him when we can.
Appreciate y'all listening to us. Thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all. Have a safe week. Peace. Bye.
Watch for deer. Check out all of our sponsors. The Turkey show in Nashville is coming up. We're going to have a lot of sponsors there. So if you're in the Nashville area, come see us. Check out all of our sponsors that are going to be there. Check out Boss Shot Shells. Pacific Calls, we got a promo code with them, BHP25. Hemp Hill Farm, also have a promo code with them, BHP. Dive Bomb Industries, Ducks Unlimited, Dirty Duck Coffee, Shin Gear, Looking Glass Podcast, Lucky Duck, Mossberg, MLR Graphics, Mallard Bay, Mitchell Chevrolet, and Stanfield Outfitters.